Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started.
Hey everybody! Happy New Year 2025. How are you guys doing? How was your New Year's celebration? How was your holiday? How you been? Right? Well, I've been doing good. We didn't do anything. We just had a normal day. Very quiet. So I'm just happy to be here in 2025. So today I'm excited to bring you a new um person in my master series. That master series is on my YouTube channel, and you can check it out. I have, I believe, three other videos now. This one today is really about domestic violence. It's about knowing when to get out, really knowing when not to get in, not to get into a relationship, not to date someone, knowing the signs, looking at their past behavior, picking up on any type of abusive signs, whether it's physical, verbal, emotional. Um, it's really a tragic story, but I want you to know some of the characteristics, some of the behaviors of a person that would do such a horrific act as in the first situation. He killed his pregnant wife. She was 6 months pregnant. Once he got released, he married another woman. She had two children already, and they had two children together. And he also tried to kill the entire family. She survived. It's really a sad situation. Should he have been released? Was he too dangerous? Why would someone advocate for a person like this to be released back into the community? And you know what happened? He did it again. He did it again. He did murder. So I'm here to bring you this information, this story about Gregory Green. It is a very tragic story. Um, there's no way to bring any of the children back, but we can share this information, this knowledge, so we can have prevention. We can have things, warnings, things to identify, red flags, if you will, to highlight that if you see this in a relationship early on, get away, move on, date someone else. Do not stay in a relationship where you're being physically abused, verbally abused, emotionally abused. Um, Sometimes it's not always physical, but words do hurt and they cut deep sometimes. And if someone is harming you, hurting you, you need to get away. You do not want to have a situation such as this where your life is taken or they try to take your life or harm you. And all of this woman's children in the second marriage are deceased, were killed. Okay. So this is a very sensitive topic. Um, it's really just a all around. I want to take it as a precautionary tale. The most vulnerable, the most dangerous time in a relationship is when one person chooses to exit, to leave. Typically, the person that does not want to end the relationship, and that's usually the abusive person, they won't take a step back. They won't change. They won't go get help. They will increase. They will become more violent, more controlling, more demanding. They don't take a step back. They don't seek. seek help. And this was the second marriage, okay? Second marriage where he killed his first wife and her. Um, at the time, she was 6 months pregnant with their child. Um, it's really, really a sad, very horrific story. So we're going to get started. This is the case of Gregory Green. So I have some articles that I need to pull up. I do have video that I'm going to share. So let me get started. We're going to start with the first article. The articles have been shared and the video has been shared on the Hidden Horror Facebook page. Um, some of them articles, I'm not going to read all of them. There's about 5 articles, but I want to cover all of the information. So that's why there's so many articles, okay? So let me go to the first article. The first article is coming from unquestionablycriminal.medium.com. It's dated July 21st, 2024. Is written by Rivi Lyon and is titled Murderer Gregory Green Stabbed His Pregnant Wife to Death, then killed his second family while on parole. So let me give you a little bit more of the backstory. In 1991, Gregory Green, he was married to his first wife. His first wife name was Tonya Clayton. They were married, they lived together, and he was very controlling. He was violent towards her. The marriage, anyone would say, was an abusive marriage. When she found out that they were pregnant, she was excited. She was looking forward to the future. However, in her instance, he didn't change. Actually, he increased more of the violence in the relationship, and he ended up back in, this was 1991, when she was 6 months pregnant, stabbing her in the face and chest. She ended up passing away as well as their unborn child. So that was his first marriage. He was sentenced, he was in prison. He did 16 years. When he was in prison, he had a friend, and his friend had a church, and he was really advocating for him for early release. In 2008, Gregory Green, he was released from prison early. When he was released from prison about 2 years later in 2010, he ended up marrying his friend's daughter. Okay. When they got married in December of 2010, their relationship, it was tumultuous, it was volatile. She ended up filing for divorce several times. And that's right there, that is a trigger when a person wants to get away, they want to escape the relationship, they want to move on. Um, After she filed for divorce, I believe this was in about September. She filed for the divorce the last time in August of 2016. In September, within about a month, um, this is when he killed all of the kids. She had 2 kids when she met him, his second wife. Her name was Faith, and they were in the home together. So they had her 2 kids that she had when she met him, and then they had 2 other kids, 4-year-old. I want to get the ages right, Kaylee, and 5-year-old Coy. So the family lived together. They're in the home, and in September, it was on September 21st of 2016. Um, he attacked mom. He took a box cutter and sliced her throat. He zip tied her up, and he forced her to watch as he execution style killed her 2 older kids. You have 19-year-old Chatney and you have 17-year-old Kara. she had to watch as he executed them in front of her. Now, for the two younger kids, Coy and Kylie, these were two daughters. He took them into the garage, left the engine running, and they died from carbon monoxide poison. After all of this happened, he went on the front porch in the driveway area and called 911, waited for the police, and admitted what he did. He thought he killed them all. Somehow, some way, they've survived. Mom survived. And it's been her mission since to alert people that when you're in a relationship that's abusive, that's violent, the most dangerous, sensitive time is when you're trying to get away. In her case, he did not back off. He would not allow her to leave, escape the marriage, get the divorce. He wanted to end them, and that's what he tried to do. But somehow, some way, Faith survived, and she's telling her story. And this is really her story of what happened to her, but it's also a story, unfortunately, about his first wife, because the pattern has not changed over these years. You have a period of, you know, all of these years where he didn't change, he didn't get better. His time in prison, he didn't learn, he didn't grow, he didn't develop into a different person. He came out with the same mentality. Should he have been given early release? Because he didn't change, right? He did not change. So I'm going to get to the first article. I'm going to read a little bit of this one, then I'm going to go to the next one, and the next one is like 5 articles. So please be patient with me. In 1991, Michigan native Gregory Green fell in love with and married Tonya Clayton, a mother of 2 young children from a previous relationship. The match seemed like a good one at first. The couple's future was looking bright when Tonya found out she was pregnant with Green's child. But as time went on, Green's behavior became increasingly controlling and violent towards Tonya. Before she could escape the horrendously abusive marriage she found herself in, Green stabbed her in their home, killing her and their unborn child. Years later, Faith Harris, the daughter of the pastor who had supported Green during his incarceration, married the convicted killer. After he was released on parole for good behavior in 2008, Green became stepfather to Harris's 2 children, and the couple welcomed 2 children of their own. Okay. Why did Faith have to have the same fate as Tonya? She survived, but she lost. She lost her babies. Extremely sad. So now I'm going to go on to the next article, because I may not read everything. You can read everything. The links are on the Hidden Horror Facebook page. The next article is from www.detroitnews.com. The article is dated October 4th, 2016. It's titled "Man Urged Parole of Killer Charged in Grandkid's Death." It's by Holly Fournier and Orlando Brand Williams. A Southfield man whose daughter was forced to watch the brutal killings of her children last month had lobbied a decade ago for the parole of the very suspect now accused in the quadruple slayings, records show. So what they're saying is the very person that advocated for his early release was his friend, was his support, was his help in a time of need. that saw the best in him, that felt that he could come out better, that he could change. He gets out of the prison, and what does he do? He marries this pastor's daughter and then tries to kill the entire family. Okay, let's continue. Fred Harris, a pastor and civil rights activist, had pressed for the release of Gregory Green, who was imprisoned for killing his then wife and unborn child in 1991. According to documents obtained by the Detroit News from the Michigan Department of Corrections, Green is now accused of shooting his current wife, Harris's daughter, Faith Harris Green, and killing her 4 children. The 78-year-old Harris, a popular pastor with the Church of the Rising Christ Ministries International in Detroit, wrote at least 2 letters supporting Gregory Green, a former congregant and future son in law. Gregory and I were friends before his mishap, and he was incarcerated. Harris wrote on August 17, 2005, murdering your pregnant wife is not a mishap. It's not a mistake. It's not a one-offer. It's nothing to be overlooked. I feel he has paid for his unfortunate lack of self control and the damage he has caused as much as possible and is sorry. This will not restore the lives that were taken. He will carry that with him for the rest of his life. But maybe he doesn't care. Maybe it was a relief to kill his wife, albeit she was 6 months pregnant with their child. Maybe he didn't have to worry, he didn't have to stress anymore because she was killed. It's terrible. The next year, Harris wrote again in support of Green's release. I've noticed a great deal of growth, and his understanding has matured quite a bit, as well as his processing skills. Harris wrote, if he was to be released, he would be welcome as a part of our church community, and whatever we could do to help him adjust, we would. But was he a good fit for your daughter? Was he? This was a huge mistake. Harris declined comment Tuesday evening when contacted at his home by a Detroit news reporter. Didn't want to comment now. Gregory Green, now 49, was incarcerated for 16 years over the July 14th, 1991 attack on former wife Tonya Green, who was 6 months pregnant. Psychiatric exam next for men accused of killing the kids. The woman was stabbed several times to the face and chest area and pronounced dead at Grace Hospital, according to corrections records. Gregory Green called police to the scene and showed detectives where to find the murder weapon stashed in a refrigerator. Doesn't that sound similar when he attacked Faith and killed her 2 children and the 2 children they had together, the 4 children? Called 911 and waited at the house in the driveway area, right? It says he called 911. He showed the police where the murder weapon was. Green pleaded guilty in 1992 to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 15 to 25 years in prison. It just seems low to me. Seems low to me for killing your pregnant wife. That's that's a hard one. That autopsy. Whew, okay. Green was then denied parole 4 times, twice in 2004 and twice in 2006, before being granted release in 2008. Corrections officials said at least 5 different parole board members signed off on his rejected attempts. Members Enid Livingston and Barbara Sampson are listed on his successful 2008 bid after each played a role in denying Green's previous requests for parole. Attempts to reach both Sampson and Livingston were unsuccessful on Tuesday. Parole decisions are handled by 3-member panels of the Corrections Department Parole Board, according to its policy and website. Just 2 are listed on Green's files because they cast the same vote, according to officials. I'm going to skip down a little bit. 2 years after Green was released from prison, he married Harris Green on December 18th, 2010. Harris's letters do not reveal whether Green knew his daughter before the man's lengthy imprisonment. But remember, we know he was a parishioner at the church, so he may have known Faith, okay, already. But we don't know. Can't confirm that. But their relationship was a rocky one, with Harris Green, 39, seeking divorce in October of 2013 and again in August 2016. A month later, authorities said Green called 911 at 1:15 a.m. September 21st and waited for police in the driveway of his home on the 4400 block of Hip in Dearborn Heights. Inside the home, investigators discovered Harris Green in the basement, bound with tape and zip ties. Prosecutors allege Green tied up and assaulted his wife before making her watch him fatally shoot her 2 older children. So that's Chatney, 19 years old, and that's Carol, 17 years old. He made her watch as he executed them. Green is also suspected of killing their 2 young daughters with carbon monoxide poisoning, officials said. So that's 4-year-old Kaylee and 5-year-old Coy. The 2 daughters that Faith and Gregory had together. He didn't exact the same level of violence on the little girls, his 2 daughters. He spared them in a sense by killing them with the carbon monoxide poisoning versus executing them like he did Chadney and Carol. Green has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count each of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, torture, unlawful imprisonment, felonious assault as a felon in possession, and felony firearm. His court-appointed attorney said he planned to file a motion for an insanity defense, mirroring a tactic attempted after Tonya Green's death. Green also planned to use the insanity defense to explain why he stabbed his then wife in 1991. According to documents in his court file, There was no information indicating the results of a mental competency exam ordered by a Wayne County judge. So he wanted to claim the defense of insanity. That in those moments, when he killed his first wife in 1991, and when he slit the throat of Faith and killed his two daughters, Coy and Kylie, and when he killed execution style Chadney and Kara, that he was insane. Green was repeatedly denied parole over the 1991 murder. One second. Because he showed little remorse and blamed his victim for his actions, his prison records show no remorse. No remorse. He still can't explain his murderous rage. Oddly, he did not utter a word of empathy or remorse, officials wrote in a report dated December 8th, 2006. Considering the brutality of the fatal crime, Green needs to enhance insight, empathy, and remorse. But what do you do when the person doesn't have empathy? He doesn't have remorse. He's not sorry. The parole board made an about face 2 years later and released Green. Reasonable assurance exists that the prisoner will not become a menace to society or to the public safety, parole board officials wrote in a report dated February 8th, 2008. The documents listed Green's projected release date as April 29th, 2008. Officials in the 2008 report detailed terms of Green's release, including abstaining from alcohol and abiding by a curfew. It is noted his crime was not sexual in nature, and Green recognized the value of good behavior. Green had completed a number of educational and psychological programs, the details of which were redacted from records obtained by the Detroit News through a Freedom of Information Act request. Missing from the 2008 report were any apparent references to the parole board's previous reports on a murderer lacking remorse and empathy, including this earlier statement. During the parole board interview, Green demonstrated little emotion or remorse over this horrendous crime, officials wrote in a report dated January 26, 2004. The murderer involved his wife, who was pregnant with his child. Green is unable to give background as to where his temper and violence developed from. He didn't even know. By the end of 2004, Green also was openly blaming his victim for her death, records show. Despite completion of recommended therapy, Green has not gained adequate insight, officials wrote in a report dated December 27, 2004. He explains his conduct as arising out of the victim's mistreatment of him. By late 2006, Green was reported by the parole board to have gained some insight into his crime, but blamed his actions on past immaturity, according to the document. Green was released in 2008 because the parole board determined he had accepted what happened, the corrections department, Kramer said. He had family and community support. Those are the kind of things our board looks at when deciding whether to parole someone. Do you think that letter that the pastor that he wrote, did that help him? It showed that he was going to rally support, maybe guidance for Mr. Green. Kramer pointed out the new allegations against Green surfaced more than 6 years after he was released from probation in 2010. This incident, while tragic, happened years after he was discharged from our supervision. Kramer said, our parole board works hard to review the facts and information they have at the time to determine whether they have reasonable assurance that a prisoner won't reoffend and to make sure they make the most informed and responsible decision. It can still be very difficult to predict a person's future behavior, especially through a person's lifetime. But he didn't have any remorse or regret. Information available to the 2008 parole board included Green's model inmate behavior and glowing letters of support from family, both from his conviction and his previous attempts at parole. Prison officials reported Green follows the rules and keeps his area clean. He interacted well with other inmates, receiving just one write-up over a fist fight with another man about the use of a television. Letters to the parole board also show support for Green. There were no letters written from 2004 to 2008 opposing his release, according to corrections officials. We believe Gregory is very sorry for what he did and has gained insight into his behaviors. The man's parents, Woodrow and Tommy Lee Green, wrote in a letter dated November 22nd, 2006. He has worked hard in prison and he continues to make a positive adjustment. The couple indicated in their letter their son would be welcome into their home upon release. A sister of Green's told the parole board about her brother's apparent turn toward faith. Over the years, Greg has become closer to the Lord and reads his word daily. Deidre Borders wrote on November 22nd, 2006, I believe this is what has helped Greg through this difficult and trying time. Murdering your pregnant wife, that's a difficult and trying time. That's a difficult and trying time for him. Let's continue. Next article, CBSNews.com, is dated February 15, 2017. It's titled Gregory Green, Michigan father admits killing his two young kids, teen stepchildren. They don't have a writer, okay, on this one. A Michigan man who bound and tortured his wife, then killed his two young children and two teen stepchildren, has pleaded guilty, reports CBS Detroit. Gregory Green, who spent 16 years in prison for killing his pregnant first wife, admitted to the September 2016 slayings after being ruled competent to stand trial. He wanted to get it over with, defense attorney Charles Longstreet II told reporters. Green's biological children, 5-year-old Coy Green and 4-year-old Kaylee Green, died from carbon monoxide poisoning. Authorities say Green left them in a car with the engine running. His stepchildren, Chadney Allen, 19, and Kara Allen, 17, were fatally shot in front of their mother, Faith Green. Faith Green was slashed across the face with a box cutter, shot in the foot, and tied up, but survived. Let me show a picture of the family. So we have mom, we have Faith here. We have Chadney here at 19 years old. Kara, she's beautiful, 17. And then we have Gregory Green's daughters. We have 4-year-old Kaylee and 5-year-old Coy Green. Let's continue. According to prosecutors, Green called 911 early morning on September 28th. This date, I believe, is incorrect. It should be September 21st, and admitted to killing his family. When police arrived, so when they got there to the house, he was waiting on the porch and immediately taken into custody, according to CBS Detroit. When police entered the home, discovered Faith tied up in the basement, the bodies of the 2 children in the bed, and the teens fatally shot near their mother. They had been shot execution style. Police have said the bloodshed apparently stemmed from domestic violence. Sentencing for Gregory, it was already scheduled, okay? A judge rejected a personal protection order for Faith Green in 2013. She had also previously filed for divorce. Gregory Green and Faith Green married 2 years after he left prison on his 5th request for parole. So now I want to have 3 videos. So let me go to the first one. Now we're going to talk more about Faith and what she's doing now since the murder of her 4 children. We want to talk about what is she doing now? What has she learned? What is her message to other people that could be in a similar situation, right? Similar problematic situation, abusive relationship, verbally abusive. What did she learn? Can she give any guidance, any advice to others that could be in something similar? Or are there signs, right? Are there signs to know for prevention? So I'm going to read the first article. I'm going to go to another picture. Okay. I think I can get a better one up, fuller one up. Okay, we'll go with this one. So this is a nice picture, okay, of Coy and Kaylee. So this article that I'm going to read, then I'll share the video, is from www.clickondetroit.com. The title of the article is Woman Shares Story 6 years after ex-husband murders her 4 children in Dearborn Heights home. It's by Kimberly Gill and Kayla Clark. It's dated December 8th, 2022. On September 21st, 2016, Faith Green watched two of her children be murdered execution style by her ex-husband. Her ex-husband, Gregory Green, shot Faith Green in the foot and slashed her face with a box cutter. She later learned he killed their two youngest children as well. It has been 6 years since that night. Despite the trauma Faith Green continues to deal with, she is using her story to help others. She said the plan of losing her four children to murder, she said the pain of losing her four children to murder never goes away. She says she has good days and bad days. She volunteers her time and has written a book, The Monster That Killed His Family Twice, The Faith Green Story. She says she tries to keep her children's memories alive while helping other women who may be in similar situations. You never get used to it because you still always expect them to walk through the door, Faith Green said. You just find a way to cope with it. Coping. That's the best way she can describe her life 6 years after her husband murdered her four children. Faith Green said she filed for divorce 3 times, including about a month before the murders. So now I want to share my screen, and I have a video of her sit-down interview. So let's listen to her words. Okay. Let's see if I can make it larger. Okay, I do.
It was September 21st, 2016, when Faith Green watched as two of her children were murdered, execution style, by her ex-husband. After shooting Faith in the foot and slashing her face with a box cutter, she would later learn her ex-husband, Gregory Green, killed their two youngest children as well, leaving her to deal with the aftermath.
It has been 6 years since that night in 2016, and despite the trauma she continues to deal with, Faith Green is using her story to help others. Kimberly Gill joins us now with how she's doing just that. Kim.
Yeah, guys, I mean, as you can imagine, she says the pain of losing her four children to murder never really goes away. She says she has good days and bad days. She volunteers and has written a book. And she tells me every day she tries to keep her children's memory alive while helping other women who may be in similar situations.
You never get used to it because you still always expect them to walk through the door, you know. You just find a way to cope with it.
Coping. That's the best way Faith Green can describe her life 6 years after she witnessed her husband murder her four children in their Dearborn Heights home.
How are you keeping your children's legacy alive?
I'm working on something in honor of my son. Chadney graduated from Specs Howard, so I was so proud of him for that, for digital media arts. And then he was just starting his business, so I want to, do something with his artwork.
Oh, nice.
So, and then Kara, she was trying to get into the medical program, so I want to do something for like future scholarships. Mm-hmm. And then with the girls, they were younger, probably maybe something with lip gloss like I was doing before, and donate to like a family. So, but definitely something to keep their memories alive in honor of them.
Would you say that there were red flags that you ignored? And if so, what were some of those?
I can say the red flags were, mood swings, the arguments for no reason, or, basically it was like being married but single. He just paid the bills, but he didn't want to be interactive. And then it got to the point where it was like, he didn't want the older two there, really.
Faith would file for divorce 3 times, including the last about a month before the incident. For women in similar situations, she wants them to know this.
The one thing that I didn't realize at the time that I found out after is when you're preparing to leave, that's the most dangerous time, which I knew I didn't even know, and in my mind, I'm just like, well, I'm just preparing. I just want to save money so I can just, get my kids out of there and just get our own place. But, I didn't know his mindset,
I remember how brave you were when you faced Gregory in court.
While I stand up here trembling with fear, I put on my bravest face to be in the same room with the man who murdered all 4 of my children. 2 of them violently.
You said something to the effect that you were not going to let this hurt you the way he wanted it to, or you were gonna be strong.
Right.
How do you feel about that now? Do you feel that to be true?
Yes, even though I have my days where I'm down or I feel like I want to give up, but I can't because I have to keep going on for my children. And that's what they would have wanted. And, but I made up my mind before I even knew what was going to happen that I wasn't going to suffer, even though he said he wanted me to. And I just refused. So I have to continue to fight. So I'm here for a purpose. And my purpose is to help other women. So I have to do that. I didn't want it this way, but, that's what I'm going to do.
Just what amazing strength and courage. So how is she helping other women? Well, she's working with a local women's shelter. She didn't want to tell me the name of the shelter for privacy reasons. And then, of course, she wrote a book. She's written about her life story, and she hopes that will help other women. You can find her book on Amazon. It's called The Monster That Killed His Family Twice, the Faith Green story. We put a link to it on clickondetroit.com. The book also includes a list of resources for women who may need help leaving an abusive partner or are in a similar situation. So
yeah, there's so much here, Kim, and so many times we've seen trauma turn to advocacy for a lot of people. But I'm curious about the title of the book, and where that came from.
Yeah, The Monster That Killed His Family Twice. Yeah, you might remember that it wasn't until after the attack that Faith learned that her husband had killed his previous wife, who was pregnant at the time, and that he had been granted early parole released by the parole board. So the title of the book is making reference to the fact that he has killed another woman and his child. So, oh gosh, it's heartbreaking, but encouraging because of her strength and courage to tell her story.
Yeah. And for her to sit with you and to do that and share that with us.
I thank her for that.
That's a lot.
Word you used, heavy. That's boy, that describes it.
Okay, so that's the first sit down one-on-one interview, and it's really odd because her dad was so instrumental in writing those letters, being the pastor of the church and him being a parishioner there. It's odd that she didn't know him, but it is definitely possible that she didn't know his history, his past. You really have to investigate. You have to look into people just a little bit when you're dating them. Right? Okay, so I'm going to go over one more sit down interview. So we just have 2 more things. So let me set this one up and have it ready. Okay. So one moment, please. Okay. Okay. So I have it set up now. Okay. Now this article is coming from www.wxyz.com. It's titled "Woman Forced to Watch Murders of Kids Opens Up About Horrific Domestic Violence Case." This article is dated October 6, 2023, It's by Carolyn Clifford and John Ciolino. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. A woman is killed in this country every 30 seconds at the hands of an abuser. But 7 Action News' Carolyn Clifford spoke to a woman whose ex-husband, who she calls a monster, killed her 4 children. 2 of the murders she was forced to watch. Tonight, she will be sharing her story at the annual gala for First Step, a domestic violence nonprofit that helped lift her out of the darkness after these murders in 2016. I still have days where I talk about it and I cry, and sometimes I don't want to cry because sometimes you get to a point like I don't want to cry anymore, said Faith Brown. It was August 2016 when Faith lost her 4 precious children. Her ex-husband, Gregory Green, who is serving life in prison, killed them all. With Gregory, some days it was good, some days it was bad, she said. Faith said he was often quiet and moody. He never hit me. It was always verbal and mental torment, she said. She says he resented her son and daughter from her first marriage. She says the first time he went ballistic was when their youngest child was only a few months old. She went to police for a personal protection order, but it was denied for lack of evidence. She left him, but returned when money problems began to mount. By August of 2016, she filed for divorce a second time. She says he went silent and then came that fateful day. With gun in hand, she says he told her son to zip tie his mom, and then he zip tied her son and daughter, duct taped their mouths, and led them to the basement. I still didn't think he was going to kill us. I thought he was going to leave us there and take the girls, she said. Faith would learn in the hospital after the attack that her ex-husband had killed his first wife when she was 7 months pregnant. Well, in other articles it said 6 months, but okay. Oh my God, I was just so sick to my stomach, she said. This time he was sentenced to life in prison for the murders, and Faith's life spiraled into darkness. Alcohol and Xanax to dull the pain. Then 4 years ago in 2019, she said she made a decision to live. She got help from the nonprofit domestic violence organization, and she wrote a book, The Monster Who Killed His Family Twice, to help other women. I definitely see myself as a champion for women. I want to be an advocate. I want to be able to help any way possible, she said. Tonight, Faith will share her story to a sold-out audience at the annual First Step Gala. If you want to learn more about their mission or donate to be a part of the solution to end domestic violence, go to their website at firststep-mi.org. If you are in need of help, there's a 24-hour helpline, 734-722-6800. Okay, let's get to the video. Let's hear in her words. And
October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and on average, every 9 seconds, a woman in America is assaulted or beaten.
Here at home, we're speaking to a woman whose ex-husband, who she calls a monster, murdered her 4 children, 2 of which she was forced to watch.
Tonight, she will be sharing her story at the annual You Are the Light Gala for First Step, a domestic violence nonprofit
that helped lift her out of the darkness after these murders in 2016.
I still have days where I talk about it and I cry. And then sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to cry, because sometimes you get to a point like, I don't want to cry anymore.
It was August 2016 when Faith Brown lost her 4 precious children. Her ex-husband, Gregory Green, who was serving life in prison, killed them all.
What was your relationship like with your ex-husband?
Some days it was good, some days it was bad.
Faith says he was often quiet and moody.
When did it get out of hand and you said, oh, wait, or what happened?
Well, he never hit me. It was just always verbal, mental torment.
She says he resented her son and daughter from her first marriage.
Always wanted it to be just the 4 of us, wanted to exclude my older children.
She says the first time he went ballistic was when their youngest child was only a few months old.
He escalated, just yelling, like, call the police, kicking the couch while the baby was on the couch.
She went to police for personal protection order, but it was denied for lack of evidence. She left him, but returned when money problems began to mount.
Things are starting all over again. This time it's a little worse.
Well, what was he angry about?
I don't know.
By August of 2016, she filed for divorce a second time. She says he went silent, and then came that fateful day. With gun in hand, she says he told her son to zip tie his mom, and then he zip tied her son and daughter, duct taped their mouths, and led them to the basement.
Still didn't think he was going to kill us. I thought he was just going to leave us there and take the girls.
Little did she know he had turned on the car and closed the garage door so they would die from carbon monoxide poisoning. And then he returned them to their beds. Then he cries out.
After he did that cry, he immediately shoots my daughter, like here and here in her back, because she's on, they were on the floor. He picked me up and put me on the couch. So they're on the floor. So those are immediate death shots. So that's something that she was never going to survive.
He then executes her son and proceeds to slice her face open on both sides with a box cutter and shoots her in the foot.
What was he saying? Anything?
The only thing I really remember is that he said that he wanted me to suffer.
He makes 2 phone calls, to his niece to say the girls are dead and to 911.
Other than your faith in God, do you have any reason why he left you alive, or he just wanted you to stay alive to suffer?
He wanted me to suffer.
Faith would learn in the hospital that her ex-husband had killed his first wife when she was 7 months pregnant.
Oh my God. I was just so sick to my stomach.
This time he was sentenced to life in prison, and Faith's life spiraled into darkness. Alcohol and Xanax to kill the pain. Then, 4 years ago in 2019,
I needed to change. I had to make a decision to live.
she got help from the nonprofit domestic violence organization First Step, and she wrote this book, The Monster Who Killed His Family Twice, to help other women.
Today, when I look at you, how do you see yourself?
I definitely see myself as a champion for women. I want to be an advocate. I want to be able to help in any way possible.
She volunteers and helps so many women. Tonight, Faith will share her story to a sold-out audience at the annual First Step Gala. If you want to learn more about their mission, please go to their website at firststep-mi.org. But she just has so much courage to come forward and talk about it and to help other women and volunteer. And I just don't know. A lot of people I don't know would have been able to survive seeing their 4 kids be killed.
So much pain, and then really transforming that into helping others. I mean, I don't know how else you could get through it.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I wanted you guys to hear that, see that, her words. The final thing I want to do, and I have to pull it up, I want to share when Mr. Gregory Green went to court. I'm sorry, I apologize. When he went to court and he was before the judge, and I want you to see how there was no emotion. I don't think he changed at all. There was no emotion, and Faith, she did do her victim impact statement. And he just didn't have any emotion. So that's going to be a video. It's under 20 minutes, but I do want to share that. And that's the final thing I'm going to do with this case. So let me share my screen. So this video is provided by Law and Crime Trial. It's titled Child Killer Makes Chilling Statement About Murdering His Children. I'm going to enlarge it here, and it's 18 minutes and 56 seconds long. So let's get started.
Calling case number 17-1434, the people of the state of Michigan versus Gregory Green. We're here for a sentencing. Appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tricia Gerard, on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Honor. Mayor, please, the most honorable court, Charles Long, Street, the second P68205, appearing on behalf of Mr. Gregory Green. Today is the day and time set for sentencing. I have gone over the precinct investigation report from a client. It is factually accurate to its contents, however, there are corrections of additional deletions to be made to the sentencing guidelines.
Okay, let's go over those. It's my understanding there was an agreement that PRV2 was incorrectly scored at 5 and should be 0.
That's correct, Judge.
That's correct.
And that reduces the total PRVs to 45 with a level D. And I believe the other issue was with respect to OV10 and how that should be scored.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, OV10, as you know, pertains to exploitation of a vulnerable victim. 15 points is normally scored in cases where there is predatory conduct involved. In this case, based on the facts as we know them to be, I definitely think that OV should be scored at 15 points. The facts of this case indicate that Mr. Green prepared for these murders. He shopped at a Home Depot a week before. He bought piping so that he could alter the exhaust system of the car where the two youngest children were ultimately asphyxiated. He knew what he was going to do. He planned it. And I think by nature of that alone, 15 points should be scored for predatory conduct. Additionally, we have the domestic relationship with Faith Green. She is also a victim in this case, victim of the torture count and the assault with intent to do great bodily harm count. I also think that in his planning of these crimes, that she was preyed upon and she is a vulnerable victim. So at the very least, 10 points is appropriate.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Longstreet.
The defense leaves in the court discretion.
Okay, as we discussed in chambers, OV10, it's my understanding exploitation of a vulnerable victim means exploiting essentially the weakest in the herd, which would be someone either the elderly or someone with a mental disability. Otherwise, nearly all conduct with any intentional crime would be considered predatory. I do agree with the people that it should be OV10 because the offender exploited his domestic relationship with Ms. Green. So I will score that, which takes us to 315. Given the fact that the PRV level is now D, what does that make the guidelines?
It makes the guidelines.
Because it would not change the OV levels.
No, the OV doesn't change. It's still a level 3, Your Honor. So that makes us 270 to 450 months.
Defense agrees.
For the murder 2 counts and the
torture. Okay. Are there any victim impact statements to be made?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, Faith Green, the mother of all 4 children, would like to make a statement. I have asked her deputies if it would be okay if one of her sisters stood with her just for moral support.
It's absolutely fine. For the record, I have read 2 impact statements, one from a paternal aunt and one from April Mannion.
I know you've been seeing all the news about the crazy stuff these celebrities are doing at those parties with the baby oil. The news is telling us they confiscated about 1,000.
Please say your name for the record.
Faith Green.
Okay.
Good morning, Your Honor.
I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied with the outcome. There's no punishment that fits the crime. Not even torture and death would be justice. Your justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity for murdering 4 innocent children, all because you're insecure as a man. Plus the other 2 lives you took. You are a con artist. You are a monster. You are a devil in disguise. You are now forever exposed. I've thought over and over again what I would say, even though it doesn't even matter. First of all, I am not and did not and will not suffer like you intended for me to do. What you tried to do didn't work. I am and was a damn great mother to all of my children. I was their mother and father. I'm the one who took out the time with each and every one of them. I taught them how to do things as well as people in my family and friends. I taught Chadney how to treat a woman with respect, how to fill out a job application, mock interviews, how to pay bills, encouraging him to give his all in his schooling, producing movies and his drawings. He was a great artist. He graduated from Specs Howard for digital media arts. He wanted to be a producer to make movies. I taught Kiara to stay focused, aim high. I showed her how to drive, how a young lady is to carry herself in an orderly manner. Be all that you can be. Try out for everything that you're interested in doing. Pursuing higher education. We were filling out college applications. She wanted to be an OBGYN doctor. She was going to graduate this year from high school. I taught Coy to be open to new things like learning a new language, be confident in doing her schoolwork and in herself. She loved doing arts and crafts with me, letting her imagination run wild. She loved dressing up and putting on my high heels. She would make me laugh, looking at me over her glasses like a little old lady. She loved ballet, cheerleading, and planting flowers with me. My Kaylee had the greatest memory. She loved singing. She loved to carry her purse, which was always filled with hand sanitizer and lip gloss. She loved getting her nails painted and sometimes doing it herself. She also loved ballet and cheerleading. She loved balloons and playing outside. I taught them to be giving, loving, and respectful, to help others, to volunteer. They were not selfish children. Coy and Kaylee were learning about kids less fortunate than themselves. I took them with me to purchase items for Christmas and explained to them what we were doing to make them happy. I always encouraged them and told them that they can do anything they put their minds to do. Those are the lives that you took. You tried to separate them from each other. They are siblings who loved each other and spent time with one another. Trying to split them up didn't work. They are together more than ever. Chadney and Kara are still watching over the little sisters, Coy and Kaylee, forever. I carried each one of them in my womb for 9 months and raised them. Nothing or no one, sure as hell, not you, can break me or break my bond with them. But while I stand up here trembling with fear, I put on my bravest face to be in the same room with the man who murdered all 4 of my children. 2 of them violently in front of me with the gun, Chadney and Kara. And he killed my other 2 babies, Coy and Kaylee, with a hose that ran from the tailpipe of his car to where they were innocently sleeping. As if that wasn't enough, let me tell you about some of the devastation that it has actually done to me and my family. My short-term memory is gone. Doctors tell me it's my brain protecting me from the memories of my children being shot in their heads right in front of me while I was gagged, duct taped, and zip tied. Every time I find strength to get out of bed, as soon as I walk, I'm in extreme pain, sharp pain, from where he shot me in my foot. They don't know if I'll ever walk again without pain. Think about that for a second. Never being able to walk without pain. My doctors say I have post-traumatic stress disorder. That's where the migraines and nightmares come from. Sometimes I dream of the night all this happened and wake up screaming and sweating, thinking that I can save my children somehow. Then I realized that the nightmare is actually reality and my children are really gone, and I tried to find the strength to start my day somehow. Other times, there's just crazy nightmares that I wake up from in fear and try to understand them, but I'm told that they all link back to this horrific experience I have had. I can't think of the last time I really rested without medication. I can still feel the zip ties around my wrist, and it triggers horrible memories of that night. There's times I find myself drifting off into thought and then realize I'm not thinking of anything. I'm empty, lost, I'm lost, not really knowing what to do with myself, just existing day to day. I miss my children so much that words will never be able to explain. All I ever wanted to be was a mother, a wife, have a happy family, raise my children to be productive members of society, and be happy. The reality I face now is this will never happen for me. Time will never heal this wound. I will always be empty. A part of me will always be missing. If the day ever comes when I do wake up and it's not the first thing that I think about, when I look in the mirror, I will always be reminded by the scars he put on my face, cutting me from my ears to my chin with a razor blade box cutter. The pain on the left side of my face never goes away. He cut me so deep that it severed multiple nerves that may never heal correctly. I lost so much blood. I was in critical condition for days. I should have died. Some days I wish I would have. He has scarred me for life. My whole family is devastated emotionally by what has happened, but it has extremely been hard on my parents. They love their grandchildren with all their hearts. Most days, my mother has a hard time getting out of bed and has been in the hospital a few times, but my father is taking it the hardest. He's not the same person he once was. The stress has taken a toll on his health. 2 weeks ago, he was taken to the hospital because he had a stroke. I honestly don't know where to go from here. I'm numb. There's a hole in my heart and soul that can never be repaired. The loss to me is so big that I will never truly recover for the rest of my life. I will be forever in pain and heartbreak. This wound will never heal. This wound will never heal. I would like to thank the court and you, Your Honor, for the time you have allowed me to speak. I would like to thank the prosecutor's office and staff and all the police officers who helped in this case. In closing, I understand the recommendation of the sentence, but I would like to recommend, as a victim myself and the mother of all 4 murdered children, life in prison without the chance of parole. Thank you. Faith Green.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, 100 and...
Anything more from the people?
Your Honor, just a few statements to make. I would note for the court, and I believe you mentioned that there were a couple of typewritten victim impact statements from the Allen side of the family of the 2 older children that were submitted for your consideration. I would also be remiss in stating that, not mentioning that there are members of the Allen side of the family in court today. They have chosen not to make a verbal statement, but I have assured them that the court has considered their statements in the sentencing today. I'd also like to make it clear that as a prosecutor, I've been involved in this case since the night it happened. Every police officer, every victim advocate, every prosecutor that has looked at this file or touched this file or worked on this file will forever be affected. I tried to think of what I could say today, but honestly, Judge, there just aren't any words. It is tragic, it is heinous, it is beyond evil, it is unconscionable what this man has done. And as Ms. Green stated, these scars will never heal. They never will. Also, I would like to make it clear that this plea agreement was not entered into lightly by the prosecutor's office. There was a great deal of consultation with the family members of these 4 children. They understand that there is a possibility of parole, but they also understand that Mr. Green sits before you as a 50-year-old man who will not be eligible for parole until he's 97. It is the sincere hope of the people in this case that that day never comes. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Longstreet, would you like to say anything before I give the client an opportunity to speak?
The defense has respectfully requested the court advise on the sentencing agreement in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Green, is that time and date set for sentencing? Is there anything you'd like to say on your own behalf, sir?
I just want to say, well, first of all, thank God, no, he can judge. I do regret and I'm sorry for what has happened. All I've ever wanted was a God-fearing helpmate that would support me and be faithful no matter what. It was dedicated to the whole family. That put aside, I have to be humble, very humble, because God knows the heart. He knows how regretful, how sorry I am. And even now, after all this, he still has a plan. And I'm not giving that up, giving up on that plan. Because God is God. And there's not one day that go by that I don't think of my girls. Not one day, often picturing them playing and talking to their Heavenly Father. And, I pray that God be with Chad and Kara. I feel bad for how this has deeply impacted everyone. And may God help them, help me, help us all. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Mr. Green, of all the tragic cases this court has seen, the fact of this one are by far the worst. Fathers are supposed to protect their children.
Yes.
Husbands are supposed to protect their wives. I didn't know how I would sit here this morning and get through listening to Ms. Green testify about what happened in this case. Yet I look at you and you appear utterly unmoved by everything that she said. Your actions are inconceivable and beyond understanding. I hope that the families affected by this tragedy can heal. As a practical matter, this court is confident that if I follow the sentence agreement in this case, you will never be released from prison. And rather than decide to, in the event I were to say, nope, this isn't enough, the family would be forced to take this to trial, and I don't want Ms. Green to ever have to endure what happened again. She already has to live with it every day. So for that reason, I'm going to follow the sentence agreement. I'm convinced that you will be incarcerated for the remainder of your life.
Thank you.
Hold on. That's practically speaking. With respect to counts 1 through 5, as I said, I am going to follow the sentence agreement. You're going to be sentenced to 45 to 100 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. Count 6 to 10 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. All will be consecutive or concurrent with one another and consecutive to count 10 for the felony firearm, which will be 2 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. You will receive credit for 161 days. You must pay $476 in state costs, crime victims assessment in the amount of $130, court costs in the amount of $1,300, attorney's fees in the amount of $400, and a $60 DNA fee. Since this was a conviction by plea, you can file an application for leave to appeal the conviction and sentence with the Court of Appeals. Can't afford an attorney. One will be appointed for you, and that request needs to be made within the next 42 days. Thank you. We're done. I just read those. No. Are they in the? Sorry, there's more. Wait, they didn't submit a restitution order. Counsel, can you come up here?
Okay. So I wanted to share that with you. It's hard to watch, hard to listen to. It's really no words. You have a pattern. Him killing his first wife, Tonya Clayton, 6 or 7 months pregnant, being released on parole within 2 years, marrying Faith, having 2 children with her, Now it's 4 children in the household, continuing that abusive behavior, and then trying to kill her and killing all 4 of her children. I think the takeaway from this is if there are signs, verbal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, violent tendencies, someone pressuring you, forcing you to do the things that you don't want to do, being threatening, being controlling, being aggressive, get out, get away. And know that when you do leave, they may escalate. They may escalate. They may do more. They may be more violent, more aggressive. But this is the time to get away if you don't see those signs early on. Because in the beginning, you may not see those signs. You may see they're representative, they're being nice, they're being charming, they're likable, they're kind. But over time, they can't hide who they really are, and it's going to come out. So I just want to say the victims' names again. Faith Green, mother to 19-year-old Chadney Allen, 17-year-old Kara Allen, and the 2 children she had with Gregory Green, 5-year-old Coy Green, and 4-year-old Kylie Green. And then we have, again, Mr. Green's first wife, who was pregnant, Tonya Clayton. I want to thank you for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I want you to always be safe, be smart, be savvy, be well, all my friends. Take care. Bye, everybody.